Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG Player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Course studio. Welcome to the show. This has already been quite the day for spoiler season. I mean, it's just been hit after hit after hit. Early this morning, we got Luxior, Giada, Zift, however you say it. Anyways, you're going to want to check this episode out at some point to find out what exactly this crazy card does. And of course, you're also going to want to check out my episode on Quasar Augur of Agonies, which is a really sweet commander, but don't leave just yet. And don't leave just yet to go check out my other episode on what is my favorite commander so far from this set with Toulouse, Clever Conductor. Even though that's an awesome commander, do not leave just yet, because you've got to stay tuned for this episode, which you're watching this one right now. And that would be very rude if you left. But also, it's on Topiary Stomper, and this thing, well, on this episode, I'm going to be asking the question, is this a new green staple? So, yeah, it's a pretty exciting card. But of course, if I make any mistakes on this episode or any other episode or anything at all, just blame Eddie. Blame Eddie for any reason right now in the comments below. And now with that said, let's jump into it. So, Topiary Stomper is a 4/4 plant dinosaur because that's a thing. Anyways, with vigilance that costs 1 green. So already we've got a 4/4 vigilant body for just 3 mana, and it does not stop there. Because when it enters the battlefield, you search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. But Topiary Stomper can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. So this is a creature that does ramp you on ETB, which is fantastic. And yeah, there are plenty of commander decks out there that absolutely love that kind of effect, especially when it comes on a 4/4 body with vigilance, again for just 3 mana. But of course, it does have that downside, that restriction, that it is kind of, useless in many ways, in that it can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. Now, first up, obviously, that is not a hard requirement to meet, especially in a game like Commander. I mean, okay, just saying that you have, 3 lands when you cast this, it enters the battlefield, you get yourself a 4th land, cool. Next turn, you play a land, you maybe ramp again, you can get this to, be able to attack and block pretty quickly. Especially in landfall decks, and those landfall decks are going to absolutely love this card. And of course, there are other things that you can utilize a 4/4 creature for, even if it can't attack or block. I mean, maybe something like Greater Good. You could still utilize that, sacrifice it, draw some cards, there are other, benefits from just having a body on the field. But obviously, most decks that are going to be utilizing this card are going to be focusing on the fact that it can ramp you, and then, yes, eventually, be able to attack and block. And of course, this is not the first time that we've seen ramp on a creature, and this is very reminiscent of another card. Because the very first card that came to my mind when I saw this one was Farhaven Elf, a 1/1 Elf Druid for 2 and a green that says when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put on a battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Sound familiar? Well, yeah, it's pretty much the exact same text. Anyways, obviously, there are some differences between this card and the previous one, though they do have the exact same ETB. This one is just a 1/1, whereas our new plant Dinosaur is a 4/4 with Vigilance. So obviously, it has a much bigger body and one that we actually care about, when it comes to combat. That being said, obviously, this can attack or block right away. There is no restriction on it based on the number of lands we have, and on top of that, it does have a less restrictive casting cost. Now, obviously, our plant Dinosaur is not impossible to cast. I mean, it costs 1 green, so just, one little bit more of a restriction there with, having 2 green pips instead of just the 1, but still. It is something to consider, though the vast majority of decks that are going to be playing it are not going to have any kind of a problem casting it. And yeah, there are already plenty of decks out there, I'm sure, that are already running Farhaven Elf that are like, yeah, I'd also like this Plant Dinosaur in the deck as well. Now, that being said, obviously you're going to lose any Elf or, yes, even Druid synergies, you know, that Farhaven would have. That being said, with our new ramping Plant Dinosaur, of course, now you get to take advantage of plant synergies! Like, you know, Avenger of Zendikar, that old green card. A 5/5 elemental with when it enters the battlefield, you're going to create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each land you control. And of course, on top of that, it's got landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a +1 counter on each plant creature you control. So now you can make your 4/4 Vigilant Dinosaur larger and larger and larger with the more lands that you get into play. And of course, if Avenger of Zendikar is already in play when you get your Plant Dinosaur in play, well, it helps itself and all of your other plant friends. You go get that land, your landfall trigger happens, and now you're looking at a 5/5 Vigilant Dinosaur plant thingy, which of course is going to grow throughout the game a ton with a landfall deck. And of course, when it comes to commanders that might want to consider this card, well, thank Eddie for this one because, yeah, Eddie pointed out that Phylath World Sculptor also loves plants. Phylath is a 5/5 that says when it enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each basic land you control, and on top of that, it has landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield of your control, put 4+1 counters on target plant you control. So, Avenger of Zendikar more so spreads out your counters and gives them to all of your plants, whereas Phylath is like, hey, let's make this one plant really beefy. And of course, that can be your Plant Dinosaur that is very beefy, which obviously can help you out in a lot of ways because it is vigilant. So, okay, again, when you meet that requirement that you have 7 lands in play, which is going to be no big deal for a deck like this, then your Plant Dinosaur can become an 8/8, then a 12/12, then a 16/16 in absolutely no time, and you can just swing freely because, again, it is vigilant. So, for this commander, it can be fantastic on both offense and defense. And of course, since this is a Plant Dinosaur, not only can we take advantage of the plant part of the creature type, you know what I mean, we can take advantage of the fact that it is also a dinosaur. So a commander like Gishath Sun's Avatar, which is a fantastic dinosaur commander, very well might want this in the deck. Gishath is a 7/6 hasty, trampling, vigilant dinosaur avatar that says when it deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards in the top of your library. Put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them on the battlefield and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So yeah, now go get a free dinosaur off the top of your deck. Hey, it's one that can actually ramp me to get me even more mana, and it's also a 4/4 Vigilant Dinosaur, which of course can be very nice. Now, outside of caring about its creature types though, one commander that could not care less what creature type it is, Yorick the Desecrated, just cares that it has an ETB, and a fantastic one at that. Because Yorick has, if a permanent entering the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. And many Yorick decks out there absolutely love cards like Farhaven Elf because, well, they care about ETBs, number one, and they also care about lands coming into play, you know, if they've got a landfall synergy in there too, because you can double up on those as well. So, yeah, throwing in a buffer, more vigilant version of Farhaven Elf, more vigilant version, it has vigilance, is definitely going to be something that a lot of Yorick decks are going to want to consider. And of course, any kind of a blink deck that has green in it, like, you know, Rune of the Hidden Realm, is going to want to consider it as well. Rune has pay 2, tap, exile another target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So, yeah, again, like Farhaven Elf, this is just free landfall, free ramp, free landfall triggers as well. Not free, at the pay 2. You know what I mean. You just keep using and abusing that to ramp further and further and further throughout the game. And again, having a 4/4 Vigilant, you know, next to your 4/4 Vigilant commander, can be quite fun. Just keep swinging. Next up, a commander that does double duty is a partner commander with Kodama of the East Tree. It says whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put on the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with lesser or equal converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield. Kodama absolutely loves creatures with ETBs like this one because, well, you're going to get a lot of triggers. So, cast your Plant Dinosaur, it enters the battlefield, and you get the triggers. Number one, you get the trigger to actually, you know, ramp, go get yourself a basic land to play tap, but you also get Kodama's trigger as well, so you can put a creature from your hand into play if it's got equal or lesser converted mana cost, so 3 or less. Then your land is going to come into play, and you get that trigger as well with Kodama, saying, hey, would you like to get another land into play from your hand for free? Awesome! So yeah, in combination with our new plant Dinosaur, you can essentially ramp further and get a creature into play in addition for free, which, if that's also a Farhaven Elf, have fun doing that again. I mean, the list can go on and on and on with the number of decks this plant Dinosaur can go into, because, I mean, Farhaven Elf itself is like, it sees play, I believe, in like 7 or 8% of Commander decks out there, so a good amount already. And now we've got a 4/4 plant Dinosaur version with Vigilance. So yeah, Nikia of the old ways that cares about, just having a bunch of creatures in the deck and no non-creature spells and being able to tap lands for twice as much mana. Yeah, plant Dinosaur is going to love it in this deck. So get some more lands in play, get more creatures in play, swing out and have some fun. But now as this episode is coming to a close, it's time for me to give you my final thoughts on Topiary Stomper, our plant dinosaur friend. In some decks, this is strictly a better Farhaven Elf. In some decks, it is, worse, because obviously it can't attack or block until you have 7 lands, and it's got a slightly more restrictive casting cost, but again, once you meet that requirement, this is just, better. A 4/4 with Vigilance is better than a 1/1. And again, it does have relevant creature types for certain decks and for certain things. I mean, how many decks out there run Avenger of Zendikar, and just having this in play with Avenger of Zendikar's landfall triggers is going to make it into a massive hitter that can also stay back for blocking. So yeah, I think a lot of players out there are going to be really excited about this. I mean, again, there just are certain decks out there like, yeah, hey, creature with an ETB that gets me a land, every single one of them I can get. And yeah, Farhaven Elf sees a lot of play in Commander, and I can definitely see this one seeing a lot of play as well. Obviously, cost dependent, because Farhaven Elf is quite, budget friendly these days, and this one is a rare. I don't know exactly how expensive it's going to be, but here's hoping it's decently budget friendly. That being said, there are a lot of other exciting spoilers, including ones I've already talked about today. I mean, this is, I think, my 5th episode today. My goodness, this day is flying by. But yeah, there's even more exciting spoilers that are going to be coming in the future, so stay tuned for even more quick takes. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one.